Everybody, it's Leah here, and I'm here tonight with my friend Libertine, and we're going to talk today about a really important topic that has come to light with in Canada. This happened, we found these bodies this past week, is that right? That's when the story broke. So the bodies of 215 children, Indigenous children, were found in a mass grave in Kamloops, BC. Am I correct on that one?
That is correct, yes.
So it is a former site of a residential school. Is this particular facility still running as a school or anything like that we're aware of?
I believe it is, yes. That part of the building, much like a lot of the residential schools where sections of the building are closed off to the general public. However, they're still there to be honored for
still running as a facility.
There. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. Of course. Yeah, absolutely. So, Lib, you're an Indigenous person, and how has this discovery now? Obviously, the Indigenous community, and hopefully Canadians have known for a long time that this has happened, right? That residential schools existed, that type of thing. But what I want to know is, how is this impacting the Indigenous community again?
It's again, right?
Yeah.
And how awful is that? I mean, could you imagine, could anyone imagine if the officials or any officials were to discover 215 bodies in your yard?
Right.
You know, what would be happening? Like, realistically, we all know that there would be some serious
consequences,
ramifications and consequences for that, you know? And as such, the Canadian government, which instituted residential schools as early as 1830s, I believe, when the government liberal government chose to support church schooling.
Okay.
And from that was born residential schools.
Right.
So sadly, go ahead.
Oh, so my question was actually, so it was almost like mandatory that Indigenous people send their Indigenous children to these schools.
Well, they stole them. They physically went into their reservations, into their territories, onto their land, into their dwellings, and stole their children. They're, keeping in mind back then there was no Children's Aid Society. In all honesty and fairness, it was born of the Roman Catholic Church. So no, that they encouraged them to send the children under the pretense that it would give them the opportunity to, dare I say it, because it, in all honesty, appalls me. There was supposed to be, I don't know if folks remember that not so very long ago, children were sent home with some homework. And part of that was regarding the residential schools. And one of the questions was asking them what positive notes came from the residential schooling.
What?
People were enraged. People right here in Sault Ste. Marie, Bawating, were enraged that this was even sent as homework, let alone being posed as some sort of positive, any sort of positive that came from a residential school.
Oh, so, my goodness.
The answers that it was a multiple choice that they were given. So the positive was supposed to be either that they had came from a sick home, that they would learn to read, that they would learn manners, and therefore become civilized in Canadian customs.
Oh, my. Wow, that's just surprising because my child has never come home with that type of homework, and I would have been indeed exactly my reaction would have been the same. I would have been appalled. I can't even just you saying that is making me like ashamed right now.
Well, my granddaughter at the time, who is Indigenous,
right?
My daughter was appalled to see that kind of homework.
Of course.
And more disturbing at that frame, she's age 5. So I understand that those teachings are to be not are to be, but they should be, and they are passed down generationally, so as to
Mhm.
break that cycle. And from this perspective, once again, an educational domain is trying, in my mind, personally, sorry, I should have made that clear from the beginning, my opinion, that they were trying to
Right.
put this positive spin on this very, very, very negative situation. So yes, many people in
Absolutely.
our community were appalled.
Oh my gosh, that's just I have to I'm going to blow your mind for a moment. I attended French school. And at my school, we celebrated every year. As a student, I didn't know, but we would line the hallways and we would pull taffy. This was to celebrate a nun. Now, of course, my school was Catholic. Okay, this was to celebrate a nun by the name of Marguerite Bourgeois. And she was a nun. She was a teacher, actually, who actually tried to coax Indigenous children to school with taffy. Of course, I didn't grade. I did this from the time that I was in kindergarten to the time when it was grade 5 or grade 6. And I had no idea what I was celebrating. By the time that I'm older now, I had a client who was in school. She was in a Catholic school here in Sault Ste. Marie. And I asked the teacher who was related to one teacher that I previously had in school. And I said, do you guys do this anymore? And she said, oh, no, we don't do that anymore. And then I got thinking, I'm like, what the hell were we celebrating? We were celebrating Catholic nuns who were coaxing Indigenous children to school, to a residential school. That's what they were doing.
Yep.
We couldn't believe. My mind was just so blown. I couldn't believe. You know what I took from all of that? It was that I was pulling taffy at school, so I would cut it out into little, and I would bring it home, and it would really irritate the crap out of my sister because her school didn't do that. Mine did. That was what I got out of it as a child. But I never realized this until I was older. Like
that in fact the school not only promoted but celebrated the fact that
yes.
indeed happened. And so as an educational from an educational foundation perspective, shame. And yes, I recall a number of my teachers started with father or sister.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I went to school with nuns as teachers, and so there were, I mean, those that know me know that I've not ever been that kind of quiet, I've always challenged or questioned things, right? So that
right.
led to a lot of repercussions, I guess. Fabulous 50 and don't care now. If I thought I was supposed to have rules to
right.
follow before, it's definitely not going to happen now. But I mean,
no.
so I don't know if I know the majority of people are aware that the university here, Algomi is the original. Oh, see, I don't even like saying it. Residential school for here in Sault Ste. Marie. What they don't know was pre that institution, which was at that point in time set up predominantly for boys. That our very own Royal Canadian Legion that sits on Great Northern Road
right.
is currently acts as a legion. Pre-legion, it was the Wawanosh Home for Girls, where they held Indigenous girls.
Wow.
So girls were later many years down the road, due to the not being able to sustain the budget for the building, not having a high attendance, the girls' home was eventually moved over to the Shinwalk, and then to their own, like on the Queen Street Shinwalk, and that's where they remained and then evolved from that point. So, but a lot of people don't know that stone monument that sits out front of the Royal Canadian Legion, if they could inspire themselves to take a walk up and read that, I there's a little bit more enlightenment and more
Okay.
awareness.
Right. As to what. So I wanted to say hi to Mike. Mike is actually watching, Mike Caruso, and he did leave us a comment, and I will put it up, but I won't leave it up for too long because it's quite lengthy, but I will read it to you. And it says, this issue has not only affected the people that were taken away from their homes. I talked to a young lady sitting at the steps of Algoma University, and she was injured. We should all be up in arms about it. Picture a young child being beaten or thrown into a furnace. And that's absolutely 100% correct. How would, especially with what's going on today, how would we like for any child, somebody to just come into your home and take your child and, put them with another family, put them in a residential school or somewhere else where you're not with your child? And it's unfortunate that this has happened. And if you're comfortable talking about it, because I don't want to make you uncomfortable with this conversation, but I do want to make the city, make everyone in Sault Ste. Marie aware that this isn't anything new. Residential schools have been around for a long, long time, and we should have known about it. This should be taught in school. And it shouldn't be an optional class. It should be taught.
Yes.
We are. So
of the 139 residential
absolutely,
schools,
if you guys said if you're comfortable talking
Canada,
about it.
Yep. So of 139 residential schools across Canada, Ontario was home to 17 of 139 of those schools. Sault Ste. Marie itself hosting one of those schools. So again, that's going back to what's now the Royal Canadian Legion, but at one time was meant to be and operated as Wawanosh Home for Girls. So
do you think there's other?
Go ahead.
Do you think there's other mass graves?
Absolutely. So, and that's where I was kind of going to go with some numbers here. According to the TRC, the Truth and Regulation Commission, they actively report on being aware of up to a minimum of 4,100 to 6,000 deaths, ranging from the age of 4 to 16. Over 150,000 Indigenous children from the early 1900s, we'll say, when things were actually a little better documented, to 1997. Now, for some people, I understand when they hear 97 and think that's a long time ago. No, it's not. Think of the things that were happening community-wise, from a scientific perspective, from an economy's perspective, population, health and science, from every perspective. In 1997, we weren't booming, but we were well on our way. And how disgusting is it that children were still being taken from their parents, their loved ones, their families, and put into a residential school so that the government could continue to funnel money, Indigenous monies, I'll add, through the Catholic Church system in the name of education, and yet can't be bothered to try and educate people today about that. It seems to just, we'll just put a blanket over it. We'll just say we're sorry. We'll just give you 2,300. We'll just lower our flags till half mast. We'll just celebrate it on Canada Day. It's a freaking farce. They should be embarrassed. Our Canadian government should be embarrassed of themselves. Our current prime minister has continued to lie through his teeth. He's not offered or come through on one promise that he made the Indigenous peoples. We have reservations to the tune of, I believe, 196 that still do not have water. Look where we stand from a government perspective on murdered, missing Indigenous twin-spirited girls. Our government should be ashamed of itself. And now here we are in 2021 finding mass graves of 215. That's just one spot. That's just one school. Yeah. There are 139 of those schools in Canada. I couldn't begin to elaborate on the American statistics of that.
Right.
I've not gone so far. I'm still trying to just digest Canada.
Wow. That's so sad. Beyond sad. Beyond sad. So, do you think, in your mind, do you think that Canada should go looking for the rest of these graves? Do you think that
Yes,
that would be okay?
I think that would be a small
Start.
baby
Mm-hmm.
step in the direction of, I mean, how many years ago did we promise reconciliation? And what has been
Absolutely.
done on that note? Not one
Mm-hmm.
darn thing. Our people, on so many levels, have come forward. They continue to give. They continue to stand peacefully, waiting for our government to come through and follow
Mm-hmm.
through on not only
Mm-hmm.
our treaties, but the promises made to the people. And they've not done that. And
Mm-hmm.
and the sadder thing is
Right.
they can keep talking money all they want. That doesn't heal anyone. It's a matter
That's
of
right.
principle.
That's right.
You must give the people back their land
Yeah.
and follow
So,
Indigenous ways.
anybody who thinks that the government is going to take care of them, what would you say to them?
Dream on, dream on, dream on. It's look where our world is going today.
Mm-hmm.
It's not safe to help people. It's not safe to go outside of our doors. It doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated or what your intake is on this pandemic. It's affected and divided the people yet again,
Yes. Yes, it
which I
has.
believe
Yeah.
was their goal. More and more things about the good old fashioned, um, and I'll speak just specifically to Sault Ste. Marie because that's where I live, and so that's where I'm feeling the most affected. It isn't safe for our women, men,
Mm-hmm.
or children to be out past broad daylight, and even then you're not guaranteed that you're not going to be subjected to some form of abuse or another that leaves you, bewildered, for many shooken. Our
Yeah.
elders, it's not safe for them to be out, and again that can come from both perspectives, from a
Yeah.
safety in the way of their health, or a safety in the way of, can they really get to the market and home without being beaten, battered, or abused. Our
Right.
community in the last 3 weeks, right off the top of my head, I can think of 9 incidences, and it's all women. It's all women. Short of I mean, the men committing the crimes are in fact that men. Um,
Right.
and it's the women that are paying the consequences for it, short of one, at least in the last 3 weeks in our community. So yeah, it's starting to look like Sault Ste. Marie is evolving into a mini Toronto, and that's truly not what the people here wanted. And I'm sure that there's someone somewhere, I would hope not, but that's going to view this and say, well, then, leave your house and shut off your gas and don't drive your car and get back in your teepee. And I would politely show you a finger, which I won't do now. But, yeah, and my grandma used to say it's 25 cents a ride. So,
Mm-hmm.
have to be polite.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but getting back to it, no, I don't believe that our government is standing up for anything right now. I fully believe that they are meeting their own agendas at this
Mm-hmm.
time. Um,
Right.
and that's just sad to see. And it doesn't matter if you're, one of those people that are out there fighting for your rights, or whether you're just an Indigenous person who's still just trying to live within their means. And this is generational upon generational upon generational. And our government doesn't seem to be interested in the fact that there are 7 generations coming up. And what I will tell you is I pray daily that those 7 generations plant their 2 feet strongly in the foundation of Mother Earth and take back what's rightfully theirs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's gonna happen going forward for the Indigenous people? I mean, this is a strong blow to their mental health. And I can tell you, I'm a healthcare professional, and I have seen and taken care of Indigenous people, and I can tell you the PTSD, the mental health, the trauma of what did. So if they were fortunate enough to survive a residential school, they're not the same. That they're
No,
not the person that they could have been.
right. No, not at all. And I mean, for those that are hurting at this time, it's not even just that aspect of it. It's that they stem from those families. That's coming down a
Yes.
lot of generations. Like, for example, I know I was trying to read on all 139 of these residential schools, and so I may have a school or two mixed up, and I want to say that it was out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, but it could have very well been Saskatchewan.
Mhm.
One of the two is where families went and set up their TVs, just a quarter section of land over, just for the hopes to be able to get a glimpse at their families, at their wee ones. Um, at another, I believe the year is 1923, and there's a fire, which actually takes the lives of 51 children at that time. If this is how they treated the children that we're finding in British Columbia and Kamloops today, and just tossed into a mass grave like this, I can almost guarantee that there was
Mhm.
not much more respect given to them back in the period of 1923. And so there's another
Right.
151. Our government will give you a number. I believe it's 4,100 from one of the area residential schools that children
Mhm.
died. Not only are they stemming from them, but
Mhm.
they didn't have the ability to fight back then, and they do today.
Right.
I think that's the difference. Back then, I don't think they were counting on anyone caring about. And here we are in 2021 saying, no, no, this stops, and it stops now. So I
Mhm.
firmly believe, beyond a shadow of all being, that they should absolutely up whatever amount of money it takes to properly search, and not just from a Mickey Mouse, contractor. Have the proper third parties go in and survey every square inch of that land on all 139 properties. And then,
I
and
agree.
only then, will we have an actual count of how many were hurt. And those from 1950, sorry, from 1923, 51 children. How do we find their people? Right? DNA is
Right.
not a thing from back then. So, they honestly don't know if it's your cousin or her cousin or their sister, or mothers, aunties, grandmothers, whoever they were
Mhm.
potentially supposed to be. They came from somewhere. And at some
Of
point, those
course.
families had other offspring. So down comes the line. And sadly, I think the other half of it is, although they're hurting in this time, they're just waiting for the next thing to happen, because they don't ever seem to get any justice. All they get is slapped in the face with another OMG to take the awe off of the previous findings. They really need to step up
Right.
and own accountability for their actions.
Absolutely. So for anybody who is watching this and they don't know, if you don't know what role the Catholic Church played in all of this, I'm gonna tell you. So my understanding was that residential schools were funded by the government and ran by the Catholic Church. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that is the role that the Catholic Church played in this type of thing. Do you know what were families told, Indigenous families, as to why they want to teach your children? Why does the government want to teach your children?
Well, when they didn't get the enrollment numbers that they thought they did, or that they thought they
Right.
would, they just
Right.
simply went into the reservations, to their territories and into their dwellings, and stole their children. And that's,
Right.
I believe that a statement that could be understood by those watching would be the 60 scoop. That's the first reference that comes to mind. If you're going to search Indigenous history, which happens to be the month of June,
Mm-hmm.
please do so, and you will
Mm-hmm.
find that. So the first school for Ontario, or sorry, yes, for Ontario's, the first residential school, was built in 1831 in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And
Okay.
1832 is when the federal government started funding church run schools.
Wow.
And so again, that's back in 1830s, right? 1840s.
Right.
So
Mhm.
when they just thought that they would encourage them to come and that didn't work, that hence they went on to just straight up taking their children, burning down
Right.
their taking their women and their children, right? So the
Mhm.
women are abused and the children are turned into child slave labor, for lack of a better term.
Right. And I saw photos, and it seemed as though even babies were taken. Is
So
that correct?
yes, I believe they would have taken any indigenous child. For
Mhm.
actual fact, I've not been able to find that
Okay.
in anything that I could say here's a link to, or here's findings of.
Okay.
For the
Right.
most part, the government and the TRC will admit to children between the ages of 4 and 16 being removed from their homes.
Okay. All right. But it would not surprise you to hear that an infant was removed either.
Absolutely not. Yep.
Okay.
The earlier they had the ability to condition them
Mhm.
for better success by their phrase, absolutely not mine.
Mhm.
To wash the brown off of them, or to wash uh, to civilize them.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, Again, this is speculation on my part because I'm not that well educated, I guess, on what has happened. But anybody out there who thinks that it was simply a correction, don't do that, or anything like that, you need to understand that these schools were violent. It was not a you got a talking to because you spoke your native language or whatever it was
Or you
that
smiled
they
at
were.
a sibling, or you
Yes, exactly.
stepped out of line, or some just because the nun or the priest was having a bad day, and henceforth someone
Exactly.
had to pay the price.
That's right. That's right. So it was not a kind treatment either.
No. Starved,
No.
beaten, not properly
Mhm.
clothed, not properly fed, left out in the elements, overworked, malnutritioned.
I was also told, and I know that this helped me with that is I was told that there was also an electric chair in the basement of some of these schools. Is that right?
Nothing would surprise me, but I've not got um, proof or validation of that.
Okay.
I too, despite being indigenous, have only in the last 10 years probably touched base with home and who I am, and trying to establish where I fit
Okay.
into this world, right? So
Right. Good.
the other half of
Well,
that would be for a different show.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, this is really sort of relevant to what's going on today. A lot of people are talking about, well, I want the vaccine because I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to do the things that I used to do. I posted on my Facebook not that long ago a meme, and it said that, having papers to be able used to be able to do freely sounds an awful lot like something out of a history book. What do you
Yeah, like
think? I
take
mean,
the
what do you
take the
think?
box. I think take the box car to the left. That's just me personally.
Right.
In all honesty, I have zero faith in our government right now. I do not believe that they are for the people. They can't even defend the original people, nor will they apologize to in any sort of fashion fitting uh, of the crimes. So no,
Yeah.
I have zero faith. I think they'll leave us in this discombobulated catastrophe as long as they can continue to milk it. Um,
Right.
yeah,
And
yeah. There's a
what
boxcar to the left.
what part of compliance do you think that this is playing? Because I know you and I have rather the same views of what's going on. Compliance is setting a precedent, isn't it? If somebody hands over their medical information, uh, it's like, well, that they got what they wanted. Okay, I'm going to do it too, type of thing. So I don't see this as being, giving away our human rights as a solution.
Oh, well, anybody that knows me knows I've never been one to be complacent or compliant. So, uh, and I can say this there, in the last 10 years, I spent 5 of those years ill, seeing doctors and requiring surgeries,
Mm-hmm.
and since this pandemic has started, I have not worn a mask. I have not. And this being said, I've not tried to go near my elders. I don't go in places I don't belong. I'm literally not trying to make anyone sick. I do follow the rules, short of wearing a mask and
Mm-hmm.
gloves. And I think we're still washing our hands. I would hope folks are having showers by now, but we're still
Yeah.
supposed to be washing our hands.
Yes.
And I can tell you that I've been healthier in the last 2 years than I have been in the last 10. So, and I don't wear a mask and I don't wear
Wonderful.
gloves, and I haven't since the pandemic started. And I am functioning healthier now than before. The mental
That's
health
awesome.
definitely has its days where it's affected. I
Of
am
course.
tired of being locked down like everybody else. That this
Yeah.
is, I believe we're 18 months in the running from 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Um,
Right. Mm-hmm.
it was very nice to see people getting out in the community and getting some fresh air and utilizing our parks, and just having
Yeah.
quality family time, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I would even go so far as to say a lot of folks seem to think we're going backwards in time, although socially and I don't know, in space wise, scientifically, we're evolving forward beyond all measures. But if you wanted to,
True.
going back to the comment of living back in my teepee, gladly, gladly. It was simpler times,
Gladly.
buddy. I would gladly go back
Yeah.
to, and it's not to be
Yes.
ignorant or directed at anyone. It's just for my own personal self. I think that society and things just evolve so much faster than the creator intended to, and
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of things far exceeded what we were ever supposed to do with the earth, wind, water, wildlife that he gave us. So
Right.
and again, I'll reiterate that those are my personal thoughts and opinions.
The personal thought and opinions. Okay. No, that's really good. I just, did you know that I believe it was federally and provincially that the emergency powers that Justin Trudeau as well as Doug Ford hold have been extended to December. And from what I understand, from what I've been told, and the news sources on that was that 66 members did not show up for the vote, and one of them included Ross Romano.
So that's nothing new. He's such a fuddy duddy. He does nothing for the people. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, not sorry. Is that how you say that? Is that acceptable?
Yes, yes. Sorry, not
Yes.
sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Ross Romano took that vote that he, in my mind, bribed the people for, with false promises, and he ran for the hills. He has no intentions of taking care of Sault Ste. Marie, and takes as many jabs at multiple organizations at his free will. I don't think he's supportive. It doesn't surprise me that he didn't show up for a vote that he should have. It doesn't surprise me because it seems like, and now this is kind of off and away, but when Justin Trudeau, not once, not twice, but 3 times, got, acquitted for all things that we know and everyone knows to be shady, the minute he was allowed or zero accountability for those actions, it was almost like every politician from federal right down to municipal went, oh, so we can just do whatever we want,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? And
Of course.
we'll listen to them, and we'll answer an email or two with your standard return message that they send you. It's virtually impossible to talk to someone on the telephone unless, of course, it benefits them somehow, and that is not a
Right.
government for the people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But I
Absolutely.
don't,
That's
and here's a funny thing. So I went to inquire today with multiple calls to our city hall, to our MP, I even called 211, okay, just because I was wondering. Doug Ford, the newspaper, APH, no one had an answer. And what I wanted to know was, is a group of, say, 6 ladies, allowed to meet in the park to talk, to sit in our lawn chairs
okay.
and talk? Not one person could give me an answer except to say we are currently in a pandemic and you should stay home for your safety.
Oh, oh, that's good.
When
Very
I
nice.
wanted to know, was it lifted today? Like, if we are five of us from, different homes sitting somewhere having, albeit still socially distanced, but will we be in trouble? Because, the ideal park where there's water and park and the pitter patter and laughter of little children would obviously be
Right.
Bellevue Park. So we
Right.
were wondering, since there's been a police presence down there, if, five old grandmas sitting around, would we be, and if we were subject to a ticket, would that ticket be the $780 ticket, or would it be the $2,800 ticket? Or were we organized and got a $10,000 ticket? I'd like
Right.
clarification just so I know, where I stand. Not one. All I
Right.
was repetitively told was we are currently in a pandemic and that I should stay home for my safety.
Be encouraged not to gather, basically, is what they're
Right.
trying to tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Okay.
Because it leaves actually some of those that don't think it's okay to walk out, whether it be the boardwalk or around their block. There are a good chunk of people that believe they're supposed to stay inside their house and don't go out unless they're going to the doctor or they're getting groceries. And that's a crying shame. It's, because they look upon those that are doing these, walking your dog and saying, you should be in your house. You don't have a mask on. Well, honey, you need to do some research because I'm allowed to be outside and I don't need a mask while I'm out here. And as long as you are staying socially distanced from me, then you should be okay. And if all y'all got your vaccine like you said you did, then I got to question why you're even concerned about the fact that I do or don't have a mask on or whether I have been vaccinated or not.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. It's, it's sad.
Wonderful new normal is what they call it.
No. No. Heavens, no. No, this isn't the new normal. And, in all honesty, I don't want to go back to what we were pre-COVID because let's be real. Families were just, they were distanced. Our children were looking at, our grandchildren were even looking at cell phones as opposed to, movie time. We weren't eating meals together. And if we were doing that in front of a television instead of, at a park or at your dining room table or, communication was short and few worded. And aunties weren't seeing nieces and nephews, uncles as well. It was impossible to see my parents given the community work that I do. I could have by no means go and subject them to, the dangers that I incur in some of those community works. So, it has a lot of people confused. And if I couldn't find an answer from APH or any of our elected officials today, just about 5 women sitting in a park to have a talk, our government's an embarrassment. They really need to step it up, do better.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Or step off and let somebody step up and do that,
Yeah.
But that again would be a whole other show because my own personal opinion, there's really not anyone fit at this point to run. It's always going to be about power, money, and control.
Yeah, well, corruption happens, right? And if you're not corrupt when you get there, you're going to be corrupt real fast.
Yeah. And that seems to be it. I mean, look at Romano and many others. I shouldn't just center him out. And many others that have come up politically in our community and gone on to do other things,
Yes.
But the way that it played out this time was just completely blasphemous. Mayor Provenzano knows that he's not running again for mayor. So I've got to wonder about the things that he's tried to implement in the community and will those get done and at what cost to the taxpayers of our community, and how does that meet the needs of the generations coming up in our community? Because given the way things are going right now, by the time I need to be in that long-term care facility, 2 generations, after me are going to be needing those beds, and therefore I'm not going to have a place to go.
That's right.
That's mental health and addiction. So, I mean,
Yeah. So I don't know if you caught the show with my friend Warren on Monday, I believe it was. He and I were talking about a new facility that Ross Romano has proposed, 20 short-term beds, and of course 4 more acute medical beds in a detox facility. We heard Warren's view on those. What about yours? What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, sitting on a number of tables. You hear a number of things. I think
Hmm.
that it's long overdue. I don't believe that the minute amount of money that was given down that Mr. Romano was all excited to be saying was coming our way. Um, it, that amount could have been given 2 years ago. And I'm pretty sure we're going on like year 4 now since W5 was here, not to rehash that, but let's be
Hmm.
realistic. It's been a 4-year running period. It started at that kind of landmark, if you will. So for the
Hmm.
amount of money that they've decided to give, only replaces a building that we already had pre-COVID. We had
Right.
a detox. We had that same building. So now this time they said there'd be a nurse. Okay, but look at the condition of our community.
Right.
Where we had the homeless rate was like 11%, and it wasn't homeless in the sense that they had no home place to go. It was homeless in that percentage of people were couch surfing couch to couch in our community, and I believe we're up to
Right.
like 23 percentage of that happening now. So with the current Al's Pub, with the
Wow.
5 fires that we've had, so multiple units in each of those buildings, you're looking at a lot of people displaced in our community. So it just
Hmm.
keeps piling up and nothing is happening about it. This what they promised us is something that we had pre-COVID. It's I think they have to do better. Again, dare I say, they need to do better and clean up the mistakes that our government and our medical industry, big pharma,
Hmm.
contributed to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
And
totally
going
agree.
back to residential schools, our Bawating is there's a lot of people here that have been here for a very, very long time that brought up
Yeah.
families generations and generations. And,
Hmm.
a good chunk of, pardon me, our community isn't affected by it, or at least they'd like to think. And when you look at it, if you've had something stolen from your yard, or somebody took your flowers or your newspaper, or broke into your home, or screamed obscenities at you because your skin was lighter or darker, or you wore something on your head that covered half your face, like, who cares? Instead of uniting, all it's doing is dividing.
That's
They
right.
need to take
Yeah.
care
At
of
the
the
end of the
of the
day, it
mental
is.
health, which leads to the
Yes.
drugs, which leads to the crime. And
Hmm.
I mean, Mayor Provenzano sits on the police board and still has the nimble mindedness to ask questions like, "What's going on?"
Right.
You
Yeah.
sit on the board. How can you sit a blind eye like that when the people know that you know better?
Hmm.
You
So
know,
do you think he's actually coming by that honestly? Do you think he's honestly not that informed, or do you think he's just playing?
I don't believe that he's. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that he cares about the community. I think that
Hmm.
it's and I'm going to use this slightly easier to appear to be uneducated, because the latter is to have a good, honest, hard look at the situation.
Right.
And
Hmm.
let's be realistic. It does not matter if you are indigenous or white or German or Oriental, because there's multiple levels in our community of that. If you are
Hmm.
Italian, if you're Portuguese, it don't matter.
Right.
This has managed to affect our entire community. And the ones
Hmm.
that seem to be paying the most horrendous of prices are vulnerable, and that would be our elders and our
Yes.
youth.
Yep.
And if he can't fix either one of those, but yet continues to tax upon tax upon tax, and I don't physically mean like the tax, I just mean the taxing of the burden that he continues to put on the people that are hardworking, trying to make the change, trying to bring the resources, trying to just try. He needs to do better in the way of meeting us there. And I would challenge him to take a walk through Jamestown. And I don't mean, on a Sunday afternoon when it's all sugars and flowers down in the hood. You need to take a walk down there at nighttime and see the goings on, you know?
Right.
Read some of
Hmm.
that. I'm not saying read into the social media and believe the things that you see there, but in all honesty, a good 25% of what's going on there, to be truth. So how is it that you either haven't sent someone resource wise in to make change in these neighborhoods, or at least to give the people in those neighborhoods a hope and prayer that something's going to change and it is on the horizon? And they just
Absolutely.
he just doesn't do it right now. And I don't know if that's because he is, on his way out. Excuse me, I apologize. I need a drink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem.
Or if, and I'm aware that he, a family member of his had experienced some illness, and I'm sure that was very, again, taxing to his family and his routine and such. He just needs to apply that same
Absolutely.
feeling that he's applying to his family, to our community. And I just don't see that happening. Just a lot of money is being spent, and that's it.
Right. Yeah. I'm getting the impression that if something goes wrong, well, let's just throw some money at it and that'll take care of it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Look at our city hall. The building's not even been completed. It's cost the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money. Look at all the projects that were started and then stopped, and then the contracts needed to be reviewed, and it always ended up that, the middleman, so the person that potentially is going to need that housing, for example, isn't going to be able to get it now because the contract deal included no low income or no geared to income.
Right.
Who do they
No
think are going to be
affordable.
moving into these places? People aren't going to leave their house to go into some building that potentially, when they look at the other buildings in the community, they're going, I'm not putting my mother in there. Nor is that where I want to retire.
So we have another. Yeah, exactly. We have another comment from Mike. Once again, it is quite lengthy, but I will read it. Thank you so much, Mike, by the way, for joining our conversation. It's so nice to have audience participation. Provenzano doesn't care because this is his last term. I project that he will be running against Romano in the next provincial election. He has lost every election above civic, and he will not win in the future, especially after buying the Studio 10 property for $350,000 instead of the $69,000 that it was worth. For myself anyway, I take very big offense to the fact that they overspent, number one, on that property, and number two, that they bought it at all. Let's be honest, okay? Tourism is very important to a lot of cities, and sex sells, okay? I'm sorry, but it does. And a strip club brings in people. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. And I really don't like the fact that must have decided that my city should not have another strip club.
Well, it's funny because, and this is just in what I've kind of learned as I go, sort of deal, challenging and asking questions, right?
Yeah.
I believe there was a report somewhere. It was mentioned that the added bonus to paying that extra for that property was because he could ensure that no other strip club would be set up because there was no other building zoned to be a strip club in Sault Ste. Marie.
Exactly.
And that's a lie. So way back in the day, what we call Al's Pub today, down at 192 James Street, was in fact a strip club. Secondly, the Women's Workout Center on Great Northern Ave, just beside the propane place there, was owned by Martin Pfizer and was zoned for a strip club. So we still have, contrary to what he'd have the people believe, we still have two properties in Sault Ste. Marie that are zoned and could be potentially strip clubs.
Well, you know what? I think it's good for business, especially with the fact that I don't know if you walk down Queen Street. I certainly have not. I did about a week or so ago, and it was scary. But there is very few businesses open anymore. No one is open.
Look through the Station Mall. There's nothing. Look through the Cambrian Mall. There's nothing. The places that I enjoyed eating at, I can't eat at them now. There's no. They've taken the fun out of dining, or my favorite restaurants have had to close because they just can't keep up.
They can't pay the rent anymore. I had a comment. I had a comment by somebody on Facebook, and they said, "Can everyone please just be a little bit more patient and hang in just a little bit longer?" That was their comment. Yeah.
No, we can't. No.
I couldn't believe.
No. The numbers are vaccinated, and those that aren't are still following their protocols, waiting their turn for their needle. Yeah. And then there's going to come the day where it's going to stop, because the rest of the people that are left are the people that you're going to have to take kicking and screaming in order to give it to them. You cannot mandate where's all the my body people? Okay, my body, my rules. Like,
yeah. So I want to blow your mind just one more time, because anybody who tells me that forcing a vaccine should be allowed, anybody who says that, I'm going to come back with you that you are for abortion, forced abortion, by the way. You are for that, because you cannot be for one form of freedom of my body, my choice, and not the other. You cannot cherry pick the situations that you believe.
Well,
it's
they
all
will,
or nothing.
but they will justify within their own minds that, that they could. But again, that's not going to make it right. And I mean, I know even for myself and you, on a lot of levels, we are like-minded. But on the ones that we don't, we're still adult enough to say, I'll look into that. You know what I mean? Or not going to happen, sister, but moving right along. What are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week? That's right. Yes, exactly. Because we're adults and we can, have opposing views and still be, adult about it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
See all this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wisdom. No. I didn't think you could buy hair dye. I didn't think it was essential.
You can go into the pharmacy and do it. Yes, absolutely.
So look, now I'm cute.
Well, you might as well be cute when you have to stay home and clean your house or be out in your garden, I guess.
Hey,
gotta look cute doing that.
Save myself $14.99 on that box of hair dye.
Oh boy, that's great. One more thing I wanted to tell you for you to look it up. So July, a lot of things are planning on reopening. I don't know if everybody is aware, but I am a travel agent. Cruising is starting up again as of July. Now, most cruise options have given you the option. Right now, they are requiring vaccines and proof of vaccination. However, that is only for their test runs. So their first couple of runs, they have not made it a permanent policy. So they're only for their first test runs looking for people who are vaccinated to take the first couple of cruises to make sure that their measures are in place and that type of thing, which I can kind of understand. At the exact same time, I don't like the idea of a vaccine passport. I think it's wrong. And there are so many privacy laws against it. They should probably make a call for locals, if you ask me. Your ship is docked in, let's say, Florida. You need some locals to take the first run. Test. I totally see that. So that's number one. But also outdoor theme parks. I'm not too sure why they have been closed during this entire time, but they have been, because if you're outdoors, guess what, people? And those of you who I see walking your dog with a mask on, you really don't have to wear a mask outdoors. And you have no right to get angry at someone else if they're not wearing a mask outdoors. It is completely optional at that point. Yeah. So, water parks are definitely looking at reopening. Theme parks are definitely looking at reopening. What do you think?
I think they should all just go have fun.
I agree. Oh. I agree. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, we have immune systems. They do work for us. And it's my understanding that the majority of those that were concerned have been properly vaccinated. That should, yes. I mean, at least in my mind, I don't claim to be a scientist. I'm always willing to learn and open to learn something. But my understanding now is, with these numbers vaccinated and those that are waiting, we should already just be open, not having Absolutely. To wait in line for anything. At all. I don't, and maybe here's where we differ on that. I wouldn't try to go get into Florida right now, or nor would I want Florida coming here. And I think that just, and in my mind, says, if you really stopped all the planes and you really stopped all the trains and you really shut down everything like you should have done from the get-go, we wouldn't be here today. We shoulda, coulda, wouldas all day long. But even after you came out two months ago and said, "Oh, we're shutting them down," read the fine print. The airport did not close down. Direct flights stopped. Direct flights. All
Hmm.
international flights still came in, people. The border, feel free to go sit down there and watch for yourself.
Hmm.
That's not essential traffic coming back and
Hmm.
forth and back and forth, you know?
Nope, not even close. Not even close.
So,
Yes, absolutely. International travel was not shut down, and that is the federal government. That's their department.
right. So all of the things, I mean, you can, I guess in my final stance would be that they've asked a lot of the people and
Yes.
given even less of the people. And when those same said people got a little bit tired and decided they were gonna head out to a park or a bridge or wherever and stand there with whether it be their flag or their sign, that they're given a ticket anywhere from 780, I believe, right up to 10,000. Just depends on where they fit you into this event, um,
Hmm.
and how disturbing it is that other multiple events have gone on in this community. Now, whether
Hmm.
they've cloak and daggered it on the down low or they just blatantly did it, those people are those same police officers are showing up. So it's not one for all and all for the same. It's pick and choose what they want to do and who's going to get what and how they're going to
Yeah,
implement that. So it's a
absolutely.
fairness, and you ask us to be fair on so many other levels, and then you can't reciprocate even a hair of that back. And by they, I mean government officials. So
Hmm. Hmm.
and then to go so far as to inject our military and inject our police forces and then take
Hmm.
other resources away from hospitals and social workers and wellness programs, and then still
Absolutely.
expect these people to perform at max support. It's just not
Absolutely.
there. So
Absolutely.
I see how people more and more daily are becoming a little perturbed, and more are stepping out of their houses, and even if you're getting out with your mask on, bless your heart, please just get out, get some vitamin D. You've been locked down for too long. It's not good for your
Yes.
body. Like we weren't intended to be cave dwellers. If that was the case, you'd have been born in the caveman era and not in the human being era.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. So I don't know
Mhm.
exactly in the indigenous community how important the orcas are. But for myself anyway, I've known that there's a long history about orcas and the indigenous people. Anyway, a couple of years ago, an orca in I believe it was Orlando, killed their trainer, and this whole thing really blew up. And when you said that, it really reminded me of what somebody had said. A reporter had said, if you had been put in a bathtub for 15 years, 30 plus years, wouldn't you be a little angry, a little frustrated, a little upset? Wouldn't you have gone just a little bit psychotic? Absolutely, you would. And that's what comes to mind right now. Are we orca who's swimming, completely in a circle all the time and in this contact concrete pool that you can't get out of? How long can we last? How long can the human race last like this?
Well, I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in indigenous teachings, everything should be free,
Of course.
and anything that you have to take should be for necessity. So you're either
Yes.
going to eat it or and multi-purpose the rest of, like, the entire spirit, we'll call it, is
Mm-hmm.
utilized.
Right.
It's not a wastage like what happens today. But
Yes.
in getting back to what you were saying from that, my teaching is that we are all to be free, and that there were
Mm-hmm.
certain animals provided to feed and to nourish, and hence when you go on to berries and herbs and medicines, and these were all things that existed and kept people healthy in that lifestyle and in that culture long before there were
Mm-hmm.
pharmacies and you know
Absolutely.
penicillins, just all sorts of things. And it's not to disrespect or discourage any of those scientific things. They were obviously beneficial to today.
Yes.
But like
Yeah.
you were saying a little bit ago, boxcar to the left, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of the older elders, and I've heard the comment made, like, remember them blankets? So a
Yeah,
lot of our Indigenous, in that way, aren't really feeling very confident about what poison the government's currently offering everyone, right? Where the other half of them are petrified because they've had to been subjected to these ways for so long that they're really not entirely sure. So
absolutely.
for my own
Absolutely.
standpoint is my train of thought is if I was intended to die from COVID, that's exactly how the creator will take me. Again, that's
Right.
my own feelings, right?
Yeah,
I don't know how
absolutely.
that's intended for me. I don't know when it's intended for me. I just know that I'm supposed to live my best me while I am here in the physical world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for joining me. I was wondering if you have a final thought.
Well, thanks for inviting me, and thanks for making sure that the platform for, I mean, it's huge, but for those 215 innocent souls, thank you for acknowledging those and for having the curiosity and the anger enough to hold accountable to those that should be. A
Absolutely.
final thought: I always love having a conversation with you, so that's always fun on every level, good, bad, ugly, and otherwise.
That's
Um,
right.
yeah, so I hope that we have the opportunity to do it again on just about every level of our community. I wanted to congratulate you on the new show. I hope it takes off
Thank you.
and has meets the standards in which you dream of. You are an amazing host.
Absolutely.
You are not afraid to talk about the issues, good, bad, ugly, and otherwise, whether you are for or against. So I
That's
really
right.
believe that those that have the opportunity to come on the show should absolutely snatch it up and
Awesome.
go with it. You are a very biased and solid woman. So props to you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who is supporting the show. You're just watching it. If anything, just share it out. That's all I really ask. Because we do want to
Awesome.
get the word out about what's going on, not only with regards to COVID, because honestly, there's a lot of shows out there that are talking about it. And of course, we do touch on it, but I'm not prepared to make that my complete platform. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Time to go.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Tongue tied everywhere around. Awesome sauce. Well, you have a great night.
Time to
Stay
go.
safe.
Anyways, yeah, yes.
I look forward to
All
talking to you
right. Have a good
soon.
one. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye,
Yes,
love.
absolutely. We will do this again. Bye.
Night, Mike.
So, anyways, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, again for watching. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. And if there's anything that I can do, you want to shoot me a message, you want to chat, I'm more than happy to do so. I have a lot of upcoming things going on. I have so many fresh ideas in my mind. Hoping that maybe I'll get the camera on very soon while I'm cooking. Also, of course, I'm going to be talking about Disney and travel because I am a travel agent. So that will be a topic as well that I am going to tackle. So thank you, everyone, for joining me. And I hope you have a really great day.